Hello and welcome again to Bold Women Lawyers Spotlight. I'm Sharon Christie, founder and CEO of Bold Women Lawyers, and I'm really happy you've joined us here today. We are talking with a wonderful friend of mine, Deb Coman. We're going to be talking all about your content and what you need to have in your content and social trust, which is an area that Deb is an expert in. And why that's important and what it really means in terms of your content. So before we jump in, for those of you who don't know me, I am a lawyer. I was in private practice for many years. I was a partner in a small PI and med-mal firm for about 15 years. And then for the last 16 years, I was in active practice. I had a solo firm. And then I was able to merge that with another firm. And now I have Bold Women Lawyers, where I am a business strategist and business coach for lawyers in solo and small firms. So I wanted Deb to come today and talk to us because we all know how important our content is, whether it's on a website or your social media or things that you are handing out or even mailing out to clients. It doesn't matter. Your content is very, very important. And it's not, legalese. It's not legal briefs. We all know that. So we're going to hear from Deb. Let me tell you about her. She is a content conversion strategist. Deb empowers business owners to create trust-building content to generate sales, referrals, and collaborations, all really important for lawyers. She hosts a weekly Twitter chat called #SocialTrustMondays at 3 o'clock Eastern, and she was featured by BuzzSumo in their top 100 content marketers to follow right now. Deb has a content conversion lab and private services to help clients simplify their marketing with actionable steps to create alignment, consistency, and connection. You can find her on all social media platforms and at debcoman.com. So, hey, Deb, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
Well, good. Me too, because, as I said, us lawyers, we know we need to have great content. We need great content on websites and social media. But we don't always know what that means because we think with our lawyer minds of how you put together a brief or a motion or something that is going to be submitted or a contract, all the legal technical stuff is what we know about. But we don't know as much at all about how to create a marketing message that actually speaks to our clients. So I'm going to rely on you to help us with that today. But I want to ask you, first of all, I've heard the term social trust, not just from you. I've heard it over and over and over again. Can you explain to us what that really means?
Yes. So we all probably can agree that we need to trust in a brand or a person in order to do business with them or to make a referral to them or to invite them into some kind of a collaborative opportunity. In order to gain that trust, we can use the concept of social trust, which is an earned currency that we earn by using our content and by engaging with other people's content in a way that builds relationships first and really creates a strong foundation that can then lead us to those opportunities of getting new clients, referrals, and more visibility and collaboration.
So let's just talk about some basics. When you say content, tell us what you're referring to.
Yeah, I love this question, Sharon, because, and it's so important to define that because some people will think of it as just their blog or just articles that they appear in. And content is really everything that we use to market our businesses, all formats, whether it's written, video, short posts, long posts, images, it's all content. So when I speak of it, I'm referring to all our marketing materials, our website, as you mentioned at the start here, our email marketing and any kind of correspondence that we're doing, and then social media, how we show up there. So all of it contributes. Even this show certainly is a piece of
Mhm.
content that builds your credibility and visibility and can lead to more social trust.
So tell me what you mean by social trust. I mean, I have an image in my head of what that means.
Yeah.
Um, but, how do I get somebody to trust me based on my content?
Yeah. So what I love about this is we tend to think of our content needing engagement. And it does, but more importantly, the aspect of engagement that I start with is engaging in other people's content as a way to build trust. So particularly on social media, where
Mhm.
there's a lot of opportunity for us to find conversations and other people's content that we can add to and contribute to, we then can make connections with not only that one person, but anyone who's tuning into that conversation. And it gives us an opportunity to demonstrate how we show up, how we communicate, what we value. And that's the process by which people come to know, like, and ultimately trust us to consider taking another step with us beyond that initial engagement.
So that's a great description. And here's another question though. When you say engage, you want to try to get some kind of communication going back and forth. It can be pretty frustrating sometimes on social media that you're trying to engage, you like somebody's post, or you want to ask them a question, and all you hear is crickets. So what do you say? When people get, and I hear it, they get frustrated.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just not doing that anymore. Nobody's responding.
Yeah. And we've all been there, myself included, and it's frustrating, you're right, and especially when we're spending a lot of time, often money and effort to put our content out there, to get it
Mhm.
created, to post, to have those opportunities for engagement. However, if we were to shift our focus to the content that's already out there, like I said, particularly on social media, that's not our content, it's other people's content. That's the opportunity to start the engagement process to create connections that lead to relationships so that then several things happen. But then when we go to create our own content, we have a sense of what people are valuing out there, what they want to hear more about, where their questions are. So we create more targeted content that people will be interested in. And when we build those relationships, it's more likely that those audiences are now going to be curious and interested in what we present when we put our own content out there after engaging with theirs.
Okay. I love that. I love that. So, how do you decide who you want to engage with?
Yeah. It requires us to really take a step back and think about how we approach, and again, in particularly social media, because it's such a great opportunity with, millions and millions of people that we can have access to,
Hmm.
that we think before we open the platform, who do we want to connect there? We get to curate our own feeds by looking for the people that we already know from other places. We meet them in real
Hmm.
life, we're on their email list, but we don't follow them on social media. Seek those people out. Or perhaps we are connected with them, but we're just not really looking for or paying attention to what they're posting. Again, the default is we tend to think about posting our own content. We tend to think about what can we give and put out there and create. And then, like you mentioned, how can we get people to engage with it? But when we start with those other conversations that are already there, um, First of all, it's way easier because you just step into the conversations that are already happening. You can see, oh, look, there's a whole lot of engagement. Now, we don't want to just kind of insert ourselves right in the middle there, but we can seek out those people who we know put out great content, who we know generate community and conversation, and we can think, put some intention around what can I contribute? We don't want to just regurgitate what's already been said 10 times. We don't want to just say, great article. I love that, piece there, but
Hmm.
really meaningful conversation. Gee, Sharon, I love the point that you made over here of how to help, get your first next best 5 clients. How does it work exactly when you're just getting started with your practice? Get right in there, be genuine, ask the things that you really are curious about or contribute in a way. Well, here's what I found. It actually,
Hmm.
extend the conversation. Some have a tendency to think, well, what do I really have to add? And it's probably because they're not thinking long enough through what they can. We all have something we can contribute most of the time. And what do I want to do here? I want to connect with the audience, with that person, and shine a light on what they're doing. And when we do that, people get a real sense of who we are. Are we a giver? Do we have some expertise that we're now sharing as we're just having a conversation or asking a question? So we don't want to be the conversation stoppers. We don't want to be those people who just, or drop a comment but never come back, right? We drop a comment, someone replies. That's a great opportunity to keep the conversation going. So,
Exactly. Yeah. And the other point that you just made is frequently when, you're trying to create content and you're racking your brains and I have to be original and I have to be this and I have to be that, and it can be really stressful. But this is responding to somebody else's comment, right?
right.
And building a conversation from there
Yeah,
where, yeah, you don't have to be the creative one to begin with. You can respond
right.
and add value that way.
Yeah. And it's extraordinarily easier to do. And it's a fast track to building trust. Faster than cranking out our own content, struggling with, like you said, those questions. How do I get people to say something back? Or do I know if they read it or watched the video? And instead, we get into those conversations, we expand them and extend them. And the other things that happen quite naturally are we get to listen into the language people are using. So we feed that right back in, as I know you're aware of how valuable that can be.
Absolutely. That's part of what I teach is use the same language as the people you serve. Use
Yeah,
the language that they're using, how they describe their problems, how they describe their frustrations. Because when you do that, as you do that they're reading what you're saying, thinking, is she in my head?
yeah,
She knows exactly what I'm going through. Yeah.
yeah,
And who do you want to hire? You want the person who knows exactly what you're going through.
yeah. I mean, I think one of the best compliments that I've ever gotten and been fortunate to have heard a number of times, and I'm sure you have too, is that when people say, "Oh, you get me." You get me,
Exactly.
right? We
Exactly.
only get
Absolutely.
that when we are in there consistently engaging. We can't create a list of the language that we think our target audience wants to hear and then just rely on that, forevermore. We need to
Right.
be actively involved. So, because things shift, things change, priorities shift, language. A lot of the marketing language people get very tired of kind of quickly. So if we're
Yeah.
going to rely on some of that maybe worked fine before, people are now kind of tuning it out, and worse yet, it becomes a trust eroder. because they start thinking same old, same old. They want refreshing. They want to know who you are as a person who can then help them in some way.
So let's talk a little bit about the content itself, because again, as I said before, you know, for lawyers, we're trained to write things with our legal mind, okay, and to make legal points to a judge, to a magistrate, to the person who's going to the mediator, whomever it might be. So that's how we're trained. And yet, that's not what content for your marketing is all about. So,
Yeah.
can you talk to us a little bit about, what are we supposed to be putting into our content? How do we figure that out?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the real trust building components is to share of ourselves and share our values and share what's important to us and some personal aspects of our lives to whatever extent we're comfortable. So again, people may not feel that comfortable sharing family or photos or their home, but they could certainly share their view out their window when they're sitting in their office, or um, maybe even what movie they went to see on the weekend and just snap a photo, and just a window, as you so well do with your love of sports teams, right? Come on,
Yes,
Sharon.
indeed. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a point of connection. And I have a framework around content that I help people, guide people to rely on. That's the 4 C's of content that leads to content that converts. We want it to culminate in conversion, where we're not just putting this stuff out there, but we're actually getting new clients, getting the referrals, getting opportunities for collaboration, or to be on people's shows, whatever our goals are, revenue generation included. So to get to conversion, it's not just about creating content and putting it out there. The first C is clarity, and having a real clear message about who we are, what we stand for, how we help, kind of what you and I have talked about. What does our audience need to hear from us? So be very clear on what our message is and how we're going to create it. What format are we going to use? What do our clients, how do they like to consume content? We could do videos forever. If they don't like video, then they're not going to really consume what we're putting out there. So to really stay in tune and have clarity around the message. The second is connection, and it's to set the intention to connect with our audience. Of course, we're the long game is we hope to generate revenue, get the clients, all the things we talk about. But that's not what we lead with, because we have no trust built, and there's no reason for people to choose us over the other people who do what we do also. So we need to set an intention to connect with people. And that's where, again, the values, whatever we can share about what we think about things, what we believe in as it relates to our business, but to stretch a little bit, which
Mhm.
can feel uncomfortable. But again, if our goal is to reap the benefits of conversion, then we may feel more, excited about going down that road a little bit further. And again, deciding where that boundary is for each of us is important. So, clarity, connection, consistency tends to be where most people have a challenge. That we're busy. We're serving people. We have a lot of things we're doing behind the scenes, creating content for all the things I talked about, whether it's a blog, video,
Mhm.
social
Mhm.
media, email, the website. It feels like it's just nonstop. So when we can get in a place where we can consistently show up in those places, we're going to have much better results. So it's kind of hard to say my stuff's not working if we're not showing up consistently. And again, on social media, that means the engagement even more than the putting content out. And then with those, with clarity, connection, and consistency, we will then get the fourth C, which is conversion, where, when we work it, that's when people reach out and say, come be on my show, tell me more. You've mentioned your program. What is that about? And that's where we have all these opportunities to really make things happen in the end.
So I love your four C's. You and I have talked about that before, but I do love it, and I do want to go back. So we talk about clarity, clarity in the message, and the message is not, as I've said, hire me, hire me. That's not the message, right? What
Yeah.
should be the core of your message?
Yeah. So some people spend a lot of time figuring this out.
Yeah,
And it's important. It's not something to be glossed over. So whether you can do that with an exercise, I can walk you through something quickly here, or you work with someone, as we've all probably done at some point, to really hone in on what that is. It's essentially the core message is who we are and how we serve the particular people that we work with, or brands or businesses. So whatever it is, that capturing that in the most effective language that speaks to the people whose attention we want to interest.
right.
That's what I mean when I say clarity. Who we are, what we stand for, how we help, and what are the results that people get when they work with us. When we can nail that down, as I know you do with the attorneys that come to work with you, that becomes the center point that we then post on social media, write a blog. We always have to come back to, is this in alignment with my core message, or am I just kind of going off over here because it seems like a hot topic? It's not to say we can't do that. That might be fine, but we need to make sure we're coming back to that clarity around the core message, because our audience will get confused if we flip and flop all over the place.
Yeah, that is such a good point, and I know that I've worked with lawyers who have some resistance with the because I talk about it particularly in terms of finding your niche, okay,
Yeah,
and who are you serving, and how do you help them, and I get a lot of pushback from some people because they want to be very broad in their message. But the problem is when you're that broad, you're really not talking to anybody in particular.
right.
And the I work with lawyers in solo and small law firms, and small being, two, three, four partners, that size, not small as the Small Business Administration might define it. Does that mean if somebody who worked in big law came to me and said, listen, I think there's some issues that you could help me with, would you be willing? That I'm going to say, no, you're not a solo practitioner, or you're not in a small law firm. Sure, if I think I can help you, if you and I align well, if I think we can work together well, sure, I'm going to help you.
Yeah,
But my message is not focused on you who are in a 500 lawyer law firm. That's not where my message is.
yeah,
My message is to lawyers in other professional situations, in much smaller
yeah.
professional businesses.
Exactly, Sharon. And as you know, it works as a filter, right? Because
Yes,
if someone is interested in your services and they don't meet that criteria that you seem to be talking about quite a bit, they still will reach out most likely. And then you have the conversation you just shared. But it helps people self-select and know for sure, oh, she is for me. This sounds like what I'm looking for. Just enough to have that one-on-one conversation.
exactly. Exactly. I had it recently with someone who wasn't even a lawyer, but works with lawyers. Could I help? I said, sure, we can work together. No problem.
Yeah,
Okay, let me go to the connection. I think you made very clear,
good.
and consistency is completely clear. But here's what I hear a lot. So how often do I need to do this?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
what do you say, Deb?
If
to
only.
frequency.
So, marketers always get accused of saying it depends, but it does. What I've always gone back to is it's quality over quantity.
Mhm.
So if you're emailing the subscribers on your list once a month, it's pretty likely they're going to forget about you the
Yeah.
rest of the month. I mean, but if you can't do it, then you have to kind of know where again you can push the edge a little bit. Go
Mhm.
to every 2 weeks. Once a week is ideal, I think, if not more. And again, you have to know your audience. What will they want? What will they tolerate? What's going to serve them? Social media, some will say every day, post on Twitter, 721 times, 24 once an hour for a 24-hour period. If it becomes just stuff for the reason of posting and not the intention of connection, then it's not going to do you any good except
Mhm.
take a lot of your time and effort. So I think it's important to define consistency for ourselves and what can we do. And the more we can be there to engage with conversations when they're somewhat fresh. It doesn't have to be in the moment, but a week or two later, the train has kind of left the station
Yeah.
for most
Yeah. Yeah.
conversations. But so again, a few times a week on certain platforms, every day on others if you can. And again, I think that when we up the game on consistency and start to see results, we become much more energized and it feeds our content loop. We get ideas. So the other piece I wanted to say about not only just hearing the language people use, but those conversations we enter into spark ideas for our own content. Like, oh, I can take this
Mhm.
further. I can write about this or do a video or an interview with someone on that topic. So, again, it keeps us kind of fresh when we can do that. So, we have to define it for ourselves, but it's not about just checking the box on how many times to post or email. It's
Yeah.
about being relevant to our audience.
The other thing that I found, Deb, this is true for myself, is once I found a creation vehicle that I liked, I was able to take that and then use it for the other vehicles that I didn't like as much. I love doing videos.
Yeah.
Okay. I really do enjoy it much more than sitting down and writing it all out.
Yeah.
And yet I can do a video, take the transcript, and then break that up
Yeah.
into shorter blog posts, etc. And I raised that issue because people feel so overwhelmed. I have so much other work to do. Oh, and by the way, like I'm a lawyer, I've got business I have to attend to, exactly, and I have clients I have to serve, and so I can't spend all my time doing this. And you don't have to, because there's ways you can repurpose things that you do. And of course, you can always get help, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
For
That's the
sure.
that's
And it's so important, Sharon, and repurposing. It's hard to imagine that people are not repurposing, but people are out there because again they think, oh, got to keep creating, write the next email, right,
right,
do the next video. But
right.
you're absolutely right. When you create especially if it's a chunk of content, whether that's a long form social post or a video or a blog, inside that is your next email or two. Not just, hey, here's my latest video or here's my latest blog, but pull out the relevant pieces and make that the email that you send. Make it 5, 10, 20 social media posts.
Mhm.
There's no reason we have to finish one thing and turn to create the next new one. You're absolutely right. Diving in, repurposing is such a vital strategy for our content.
And I know, Deb, because I downloaded it, I know that you have a really, really helpful guide to help people get ideas and spark their creativity. So I'm going to ask you, I know you had told me before you'd be willing to share it with our listeners, right? Tell
Yes.
us what it is and give me the website so I can, or the URL so I can put it up here.
Sure, absolutely. So people can grab it at debcoman.com/topics. And
That's
it
easy.
is a list. Yeah, we want to always make it easy, right? It's always about them, not us. So to
Correct,
make it
correct.
easy, which is why I created this, is people will say, okay, that's great, Deb. 4Cs sounds like a good idea, engaging, but how do I start? Like, that's not
Exactly.
me. I don't know what's interesting or what kind of information I should share. So 21 trust building conversation starters or topics is just a list to get you started. You can use them as is, pull right from them and create your posts or your emails, or it can hopefully spark a list a lot longer of what other things like that you can share. So I'd love for people to grab it. And if you feel like you're really doing a great job with this, just check yourself against it. Because my guess is you will find some things that you didn't think were relevant. And there really are trust building topics that people care about, that they do want to
Yep.
know. And, you get to decide which ones you want to kind of play around with and experiment with.
Yes, and I can attest to that because I downloaded it and I use it all the time. So,
Oh, thank
um,
you, Sharon.
the other thing, I mentioned this in your intro, your content conversion lab. Can you tell us what that is? And then how,
Yeah.
if people were interested, how would they get in touch with you about
Oh,
that?
sure. Thank you so much. So, my content conversion lab came about from people needing more support, resources, and a system to do the things we're talking about today. How do they figure out clarity for their message? How do they make connection in all the ways they create their content? And then, most importantly, how do they stay consistent with it? Because that's again where most people have challenges. So the lab is a 6-month group program designed to give people everything they need, training on all the specific aspects that we've talked about today: email marketing, website copy, social media, all about building trust, all about um, creating connections and building meaningful conversations that lead to more clients and better outcomes in our business. And we actually start a new rotation right now. And if not, people can still check it out. And if you're listening to this at a later point in time, and still reach out to find out when the next rotation begins. And that too is at debcoman.com/lab. And it's a community for people to get individualized support if they need it, or group only to kind of get the practice in and take action. We've all had the resources or can get the courses, but what really happens is that most need the additional support and accountability, if you will, to kind of stay in there and make those changes that are going to be make a lasting difference in their business.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, well that URL is up.
Thank you.
So anybody who's watching, go to debcoman.com/lab for more information about the lab, or /topics for her 21 conversation starters, and you'll be on your way. So Deb, it was great, great, great having you here. I really enjoy our conversation. I know that anybody who works with you, because I've worked with you, anybody who works with you is going to get huge benefits that will stay with you for a long, long time as you move forward in your business and your content creation. So I highly recommend Deb. Check her out, and for sure, make sure you download the 21 conversation starters, because that's a tremendous help. So thank you, Deb. Thank you for being with us. And I want to thank all the listeners. Thank you. I'm glad you were here. And I have a favor to ask. Make sure you're following me, Sharon Christie, and Bold Women Lawyers on LinkedIn, on Facebook. And I'm also on YouTube, so check it out there. Come back again next week. We'll have more conversations all about how to grow your business and in a way that helps you not tear your hair out all the time, but how to grow your business and make it the business that you love. So I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.